Hello, everybody. Welcome to another Nuts and Bolts interview here. Today, we've got somebody really awesome, really special to have a chat with. Rusty from the LCO casting desk. Rusty, how are you going, mate?
I'm doing well. We just finished a super week, so
Oh,
I'm not used to talking this much, to be honest. Three full days of it, but it's been good. It's been good. We're doing well.
that's good. Yeah, and there was an interesting week I found with the Super Week as well, particularly Peace's journey there, losing to Kanga and Mammoth early in the week and then bringing you back against Order. I did hear a little bit of chatter around their draft, but it was interesting to see that now Kanga in particular are only one game out of that five.
There has been, as far as the whole league is concerned, like you could almost look at a team and pick a week and be like, that was confusing,
Yeah.
which is like it's a good and a bad thing, right?
Mm.
Because it means that the league is incredibly close, but it does also mean that there's still a lot of development to be had, which is always exciting, especially in the middle of the season.
I think particular, I like the story around Kanga because they've said last year when they came in that look, obviously we're not going to be making big waves in our first season in, but we're building something, and you can sort of see that progressing now.
It's like I guess with Kanga, it's almost like a switch just flicked, which is like super unexpected. Like maybe they just found something that works the best for them. As far as I know, they've been swapping rosters and trying to find coaches and like really cement themselves and solidify something. And it felt like this week everything just kind of connected all at once, and we're seeing a Kanga that, like you said, is trying to develop over time and maybe don't expect anything right away, but they're giving us a really good glimmer into what could be there in the future, you know?
And I do like that. I find one of the hardest things for me as a relatively new person to League, I've only been watching it for the last couple of years, is the amount of roster changes that you have going through. And for Kanga to be able to keep that roster and just keep developing it, I think that's going to be big for them. But a team that's doing big stuff already is Chiefs. And wow, 11-0 with 11 games played. Obviously it's kind of an incredible feat that they're pulling off here.
Yeah, I mean they are legitimately unstoppable at this point, and I don't think I can even name a team that can hold a candle to them currently. Which, to be fair, as far as rosters are concerned, the Chiefs have 5 or 4 previous title winners with an LCK player chucked in there as well. So there's really high expectations for them, but they've delivered literally on every front. They are legitimately unstoppable.
And really, I would like to see them go over to Worlds at the end of this split, because I think they're our best chance at having a really good performance on the world stage right now.
100%. It's interesting that when you're looking at them domestically, you probably want to see them lose, right? Like one big concern a lot of people have is sending a team that's never lost a game into international waters is often like they'll just have to have a shock wake-up call during the tournament over there. But a lot of international events don't give you the time or the space to be able to lose and adapt. So there's a lot of people that will look at the Chiefs and say it's like, obviously they are the best choice. Everyone would pick them today to be the team that represents us. But we just hope that the Chiefs that do go over there are good from day one, because there's always that nerves that come with it.
Or at least are adaptable. Like, looking back to just a little bit before this time last year with Pentanet going over to MSI, their journey, they learnt so much so quickly, and that's why they were the first OCE team to make it to group stages, was it? Or first?
Yeah, they are.
Yeah. So that's an incredible feat there. So hopefully, if and when the Chiefs get out of the LCO, because the LCO split 2, it's still a little while to go. But hopefully, when they get there, they'll be able to do the same and maybe even go a little bit further.
Agreed. And I mean, right now, as we said, I can't name a team that would be better equipped to do that from any of the local competition that they have. Lots of potential good rosters are nipping at their heels, but the Chiefs are just too consistently good right now.
Yeah. You never know, though. Like, if nobody would have picked Order to come through and almost clean sweep the finals to get over to MSI. But yeah, no, you're right. It doesn't look like the at the moment that anybody's going to knock the Chiefs off. So, yeah, but I did want to talk a little bit about your casting in your journey there, because it's an interesting thing. Like I growing up, I sort of came from a traditional sporting background, like the AFL, and Mum was really into basketball and hockey and stuff like that. So I kind of look a bit of like when you retire from the game, you sort of move into commentary, and there's those people that have developed personalities, I guess, that make that transition to commentary a little bit easier. But for casting, it seems a little bit harder to do that. Can you explain some of your journey from becoming a player and coach and into casting?
Yeah, I mean, I played like in the prehistoric era of the game. Right, I was on the ground floor before there was an Oceanic server, and that was kind of my stint playing professionally. I stopped in like 2014, so at that time there wasn't an opportunity to move to broadcast. That would be like you'd be absolutely dreaming to think that's even realistic back then. I ended up working in a nightclub and studying teaching, but 2 years into the teaching, I got a message from Pastry Time, who is now an LCS caster, that they were doing these trials, that they were looking for people. And so I just kind of threw my hat into the ring to see if it was possible. And I was lucky enough to have a rapport with him already. And I'll say this, the person that applied is maybe 10% as good as the person that I am today, if that. I was terrible. I was so bad. So I'm very lucky that they took me in and they saw the potential that came from, the former pro side of me, not the personality side of me.
Yeah.
And that kind of, springboarded me into the idea that casting could be a thing. So I wouldn't say I've had like the prototypical journey, but that's also kind of the way it goes when you're in something brand new and roles don't exist yet, I suppose.
Yeah. When you're trailblazing, you don't have a path. So now it's really good to see that the LCO taking that step to try and develop some talent there, because I did see you in particular posted on Twitter about wanting to open the door to casters with a possible role in the LCO. How's that going for you guys?
Well, it's pretty new, right? Like I've only just recently put the post out there. It's been a couple of weeks, and I will say I've had an overwhelming number of people just throwing their hat in the ring. So the early opinions on it is so far it's just amazing to see so many people interested, if nothing else. A few too many people misread the post, and I've had an abundance of international applications that I just can't use. So there's been a lot of time sifting through that, and for reference, it's just me doing this.
Oh wow!
So I'm trying to. The short of it is I'm trying to find people, because I don't think I can do this forever, and I don't think that the people around me can do this forever either. And all we've done is bleed talent. All we've done is lose people to other regions, which makes sense with everything that's happened. But as a result of that, the infrastructure locally is just gone. So I want to try and use the time that I am here to at least make sure that if I were to say, and I'm not saying this is going to happen, if I were to say next year I'm not casting anymore, that I could still recommend people to replace my role and do a good job, enough that I would be very happy to be a viewer, right? Not concerned, which is what I would have, without that training there for some people.
That's it. It's what they like to call in management circles as a succession plan, because you're right. You don't want to be sitting there doing the same thing all the time. Even though it might be fun, you might not be able to talk for a bit afterwards. But you need that second wave coming through, that growth, so that you can move forward. And I'm happy to see that there's so many people that are interested in that. Because I know in our community here we've got a guy called Mercury Casts who does a lot of, he does some Valorant stuff as well, and like he's picked up a few local gigs around the spot. But yeah, seeing him get into something would be amazing, just because you can say, I knew that guy, that thing where somebody ends up on Home and Away because they 50 million people on Home and Away, and you go, I know them, I knew where they come from, sort of thing.
Absolutely, that makes sense. Yeah, I
Mhm.
saw Mercury's application as well. I won't say anything about it yet, but
No,
early
that's
stages, I
fair
saw
enough.
it.
Sorry, I only bring him up because he's had involvement with us, and when
Of
we've
course,
run
of
some
course.
tournaments in the past, he's jumped in to help out too. So, and I know, like you say, he's still building his craft, but because he's one of the ones that I've watched, and like he might co-stream an LCO event and do casting himself,
Yeah,
which is hard. Like he does have a bit of a following, but you don't get that feedback or mentorship for saying, "Cool, this is what you did really well. These are areas of improvements." And it sounds like that you've got that idea in mind for the LCO.
which is an issue, right? Because I
Mm.
even feel like in my position right now on the LCO, I'm the only person that does my role.
Mm.
There is no one that I can work with to develop the craft.
Mm.
I would have to look internationally, right? And like this is in my mind, this means that I'm at a theoretical ceiling for
Mm.
performance, and so the least I could do is help bring others up to that ceiling, so that like we can develop together.
Mm.
Or I would have to go above and beyond to even improve myself. So I want to, I want to try and bring people up, and especially those that put in the time that co-stream the LCO that actually love what they do and want to be a
Mm.
part of it. Those are the guys that absolutely, in my mind, have an advantage coming into it with these applications for training and feedback because I know the games, so I could focus on the casting.
Yeah, that's it. And casting is something that you can build as well. Like it just so happens it's a coincidence that this episode of the Nuts and Bolts Esports show for Game on Oz that I'm recording now is actually our number 50 show, which I didn't realize before I sat down and started working stuff out. But if you go back and watch some of the beginning episodes, you can see the more you do something, the better you get at it, and the more you chat with somebody. Like for a while there, I was doing this solo, and having somebody else come on as a co-host where you can just bounce ideas off that makes a whole lot of difference as well. And I imagine you probably have that relationship with Skimmy and Mac and Kitty now as well on the desk there.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the people that we currently have on the LCO are fantastic, and they all have their own experiences they're able to add into it. Kitty is the brand new person of the bunch for sure. Super young, just started in broadcast, but has also already within 3 months been lucky enough to get on MSI broadcast and do interviews. So everyone can provide something that's really unique and awesome, and it has been great to work with them for sure.
How
And like you said, adding people and opinions into the mix does wonders for improvement.
That's it. How amazing is it all being in the same location for this split?
Oh, dude, we've done. I think this is the first split that LCO's ever been in person.
Mm.
And for me, because I did the OPL prior, we were doing remote broadcasts for a year as well on top of that. And it's almost like you forget how to exist around other people with work.
Yeah.
So being able to actually be in a studio, have the lights on in front of you, and like jump back into that environment. I mean, I was so excited on day one. I almost lost my voice casting too loud. It's just such a good experience to be back doing it again in person, and have like. And this is like a really big difference as well for shoutcasters is when you do online broadcast and that's all you've done, and that's what a lot of amateur and grassroots casters have experienced with, right? No one does it in person. The second you're in person, it's a completely different job because you have body language and eye contact and you can have real conversations where online it is like a statement, pause instead of a flow.
Yeah, that's it. And you develop that thing like I'm coming to the end of what I'm saying. The shoutcaster can then jump in and say it, and you can tell through body language and yeah, you can definitely tell the energy is so different between the previous seasons of the LCO to now, and just being able to have that interaction between each other.
Yeah, and like for the little details there as well, right? Like I'm a fairly quiet person 99% of the time, and I tend to not jump in on the jokes and things like that, but like part of that's intentional because the broadcast needs to have the straight man trope. There's already a Skimmy and a Mac that are just absolutely insane human beings.
Can you imagine if Juves was still there just quietly?
Oh, it'd be so dangerous. It would just be so dangerous. But yeah, like having the ability to communicate without words means I can play my role properly. Where like there's a lot more guessing that goes into that like type of dynamic online exclusively. So it's been really nice.
Just heading back to the caster applications you put out. Are those still open at the moment?
They're still open. There is going to be a point where I just have to lock it for like this opportunity. But I want to keep them open just for future. Like if someone wants to throw their hat in at any time, and I think there's value in that application, that I will still have the name on list. But at a certain point, very soon, I'm just going to not look at any more applications and focus more on training the ones that I do have, because there is the potential of being in studio for one of the weeks coming up.
That's awesome. And how can people apply? Do they contact you through Twitter?
For applying?
For applying, sorry.
Yeah, so I have a tweet. I should have pinned it, actually. I tweeted about my applications. I might actually retweet that really soon, so it'll be near the top of my Twitter feed, not bouldering. Twitter has a direct link to it. The LCO website has a direct link to the applications as well, and it's just a Google form that you could fill out. If I was to quickly give one piece of advice to anyone who hears this and wants to apply, please just attach a VOD or a link of you talking. Like, I would like to hear the voice, the tool involved in the trade, because about 50% of applications have nothing attached.
Oh wow! Yeah, in a job,
that's a lot.
In a job where it's going to be about all about how you sound. Obviously, I'm not going to do it because I like to trip over my words a little bit there. But but yeah, you need that to hear how they sound, and even as a sample of casting a game, that would be amazing.
Yeah, because it's like artists, like imagine saying you're a really good painter and not showing your portfolio, but like applying to work as a painter somewhere. They're gonna look at you and be quite confused.
Cool. But Rusty, thank you so much for giving us your time today to have a chat about this. Like I say, you're at the end of a super week, so it's been a big week for you guys. Congratulations on how the cast is going so far this year, and look forward to seeing more of everybody's lovely faces in the weeks to come.
No, thank you, and thank you for having me.
Hello everybody, welcome back. Another week for Nuts and Bolts. Lots of esports news, but before we get into that, how are you going, Natty?
I'm honestly doing okay, a little bit run down. I think winter blues are starting to hit in a little bit. Even though I love the cold weather, just miss the sunshine. How about yourself?
It must be just the cold all round, because like I've been talking to people in the eastern states and they're saying it's bloody cold. Perth is so cold at the moment. I don't know how Adelaide is. Like Adelaide's pretty south anyway, so I imagine you get pretty cold.
We're normally cold, but we normally would get like bumps. So like we'd have like 12, 13, 14 degrees for a couple of days, but then it'd bump up to like 18, 19 for a few days. Yeah. So you'd like be like a lizard in the sun for a couple of days, and they'd be like, okay, I have to go back inside now. But no, it's just like our whole forecast for like the next 2 weeks is like 13 degrees.
Ooh, ouch.
Yeah, I feel sorry for the Melbourne people where they're like, what's that? I'm getting a top of 8, thanks.
Yeah. Oh my God, crazy. I don't know how Sydney's going, but I should have asked Rusty when I was talking to him about all the LCO stuff and casters. That was such a good chat, and he's such a nice guy. He was only too happy to have a chat about the LCO, and particularly about how they're looking to grow casters, because it came up in the chat that you would have heard that he doesn't want to be doing this forever, and like we recorded that on the Friday after the Super Week, so that was last week, and his voice, you could tell, was still blur. Like he was still raspy, and that was 3 nights of casting, so that's a little crazy, and like it's hard work.
And I think they do need to prepare for contingencies, because a couple of weeks ago, I think they had the COVID scare. I think one of them might have had COVID, and they were all having to wear masks. And it would just be very nice for that team just to have a lot of talent that they could rotate through, just to give people breaks, and obviously to develop the skills and teams of people here.
Well, that's right. Like, because I don't think it's something that's really been thought about is like career pathways for forecasters. Like most of the time, it's just self-taught, and that's how you do it. You don't like we go through it here, and Pete, being our founder and CEO, like he's come from a radio background, so he's got a lot of that knowledge, and he gets us to do what's called air checks and has instilled some of that and continuously improving. But people coming from just from playing the game to coaching and then maybe casting, like they don't have that. They're just left to their own to figure it out. So I'm very excited to see what Rusty and the LCO can do to help casters, not just help casters, but improve the quality of casting across the board.
Yeah, and hopefully that all results in us actually getting invited to international league events.
Oh, yes, that would be amazing, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
But continuing on with the LCO, so another week done and dusted of the LCO. The Tuesday and Monday night games have been played. Chiefs are still undefeated, and I just honestly don't think there's anybody that can beat them.
Yeah, they are unstoppable at this point, I think, and I shouldn't have said that out loud because next game they're going to lose and everybody can blame me, but it does seem like they're an unstoppable force at the moment. Yeah,
and don't worry, you're not the only one saying it. Like, it's just, you can hear it in the casters' voices whenever they play a team. Like, who they play last night? Direwolves. And Direwolves are not a slouch team, but yeah, Chiefs just, they make everybody look ordinary.
Yes.
But another team that's looking a little bit ordinary at the moment is Pentanet as well. I'm not sure what's going on there. Like, I would have firmly had them, like, right up the top. And yeah, they're in the middle of the pack, equal third with two other teams. But, like, watching the game between them and Peace last night, Peace made them look pretty ordinary.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting how the middle of the pack is starting to develop now. We're starting to see a bit more shifts. I think it was, what was it, last week or the week before, we had like every team in second place. Yeah. So we're starting to see some of those shuffles now, and as we're getting further, I think all these players are dealing with all the things that we were talking about. Like, yeah, it's cold, and the season's probably starting to wear on them a little bit, the continual play every week. So this is where we'll see the teams that are really determined starting to rise to the top.
Mm-hmm. That's it. One team that has been improving to no end has been Kanga. And to the point where they're knocking on the door of the finals. So their position is 6th at the moment, but they're only one game outside of the top 5, and that means finals.
Yeah. So is it top 6 that are going through to...
No, top 5 play finals.
Top 5.
So the top team gets the first week off, and then I think it's 2 and 3 play off in like a winner's bracket. And then 4 and 5 play off in the losers bracket, and the loser of the losers bracket goes out the back door, and the winner plays the loser of the upper bracket type thing. Yeah.
So yeah, Kanga are real close. They're only one win out of being in that block of 3 teams that are sitting on 7 wins. So yeah, very tight game. It's
exciting as well because like Kanga have said for a while that they're building. Like when they came in I think split 2 last year, or was it split 1 this year? I can't quite remember, but like they said they were building and they were looking to improve, and they're improving, and I'm really happy to see them becoming more competitive.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's turning out to be really exciting, except for the Chiefs.
That's right. Yeah. and
no, we love it. We love seeing the top.
Yeah. And I hate to say it, but at the other end of the roster, anybody playing Gravitas, although they were looking good sort of early to mid game against Mammoth yesterday, but then Mammoth started scaling, and yeah, it was goodbye Gravitas. So I would like to see them get one win by the end of the season. Maybe Chiefs can just throw a game against them just to put everybody's channel points out of whack, and let the faithful have a huge freaking. Sorry, I shouldn't say that. I do not mean to cast dispersions on the credibility of the Chiefs, but But yeah, no, it's just a joke. Just a joke.
Yeah, no, for anybody who's listening and might not know, if you do ever watch live on Twitch, they do predictions. So you can vote on who's going to win each match, and you're betting channel points.
Yeah. Which are useful for nothing other than that.
Like, yeah. It's just an in Twitch thing.
Yeah.
It's not redeemable for real dollars, unfortunately. Yeah. But that would be hilarious. I'd love to see Gravitas get up against one of the top teams and just through chaos, channel point chaos.
Yeah, it would be amazing. But also in other league news, so this is an LCO news. This is LCK news, and that is that Faker has had 500 wins. That is incredible.
It's massive. I mean, for somebody who's had such a long career as he has, and somebody who retired and came back and is still performing well, still, his team, was up the top at MSI, really, really still hugely competitive and kicking those goals when a lot of other players who started at the same time of him have well and long-term retired. So it's really exciting for him, and I think cementing that GOAT title for him. I think it's relatively undeniable at this point.
Yeah, you cannot deny that just by his longevity in the sport. Like, no other player has had his longevity in League of Legends. And look, it's going to be I don't want to say never, because never's not a good word, but this record's going to stand for a long time.
Yeah, absolutely, especially in that particular league as well, in the LCK. I think that will be standing for a long time.
Yeah. And moving on to something a little bit more serious here. So there's a Rocket League event that's going to be taking place in Saudi Arabia, GWB. I'm not exactly sure what that stands for, but the end result is it's like a $2 million tournament that's taking place over there. There is a team called Moist Esports that has come out and said they're not going to be attending because of Saudi Arabia's stance on LGBTQ plus community. Which is it's a pretty well-known stance that the countries from the Middle East take there. And look, I applaud them for standing up and saying, look, we don't want to compete in this event. We want to put our morals first. Like, we want to stand up for those human beings out there that this country will put to death if they're found.
Yeah, I think that, especially considering the amount of money on the line, you can't call this, just I hate using this term, but just a virtue signal. They're not just putting it out there without any meaning or impact behind it, because they are sacrificing a major tournament prize by not going.
That's it. And look, this is the only way you can do it, and it's an interesting thing, because I compare this to real sports. Well, I don't want to say real sports. We'll say traditional sports. Sorry, traditional sports. And one recently, I'd been hearing for a while in tennis. Wimbledon just happened, big tournament in tennis, and I'd been hearing for a while that people that were going to Wimbledon weren't going to get ranking points for where they finished. And it wasn't until just after the final that I found out why, and it's because they banned players from Russia. And the tennis governing body said, well, if you're going to exclude some players, we can't assign points for this. And to the point where the two men that played in the final, Nick Kyrgios and Novak Djokovic, went backwards in the standings after being in the final at Wimbledon. And look, I think it's a brave thing for not just Wimbledon, but Moist Esports. You stand up for what you believe in, and like I say, it's easy for particularly companies to do, where they change their avatar on Twitter or Facebook for a little bit to say, cool, we support this, yay.
Rainbow colours means we're on your team. Yeah,
that's it. Thoughts and prayers to everybody, because they do so much for people. But to actually sit out of a tournament Yes, it hurts them, and the prize money is still going to be given away, but it's a moral stand, and I applaud Moist Esports for taking this route.
I'm thinking of an also not real sport of WWE, where they secured a contract with Saudi Arabia to run some events over there, and a lot of their talent just either wouldn't go or couldn't go because it wouldn't be safe for them to go. And fair enough, they're giving up a paycheck not to go, and it's their choice not to do it. They're all independent contractors, just like all these teams are independent contractors. They don't have to go. But it is kind of a shame that we're missing out on seeing the best of the best at the top levels because of where these tournaments are being held and the laws and attitudes around these kinds of things.
And I take offense to you calling wrestling fake because there is nothing fake about what they do. It might be scripted.
I think I said not real in like 20 years.
Not real. But it might be scripted, but those guys are jumping off freaking top ropes and So I needed to get that off my chest.
I'm a huge pro wrestling fan. I recognize the athleticism and the skill of all those guys, but it's not a...
Oh, it's definitely made up. The outcomes are pretty
it's scripted,
yes. Something else that, like, I don't know how I feel about this next one, because if you missed news during the week, Shroud is joining the Sentinels Valorant roster.
This was huge news this week.
See, is it though? Like, I know he's a big name to get to their roster, but God, can you imagine the amount of money they spent to get him?
Yeah, I can. A lot. And it was probably 3 or 4 dump trucks to his mansion. His who called it his mixer mansion? Somebody called it.
Well, it could actually, honestly, it could have gone the other way. It could have gone that he has his mixer mansion now, and maybe he's doing this for less money because he really loves the esport and wants to help Sentinels. Yeah, it's, I don't know, when I always kind of look at these big recruitments and big signings as like, and I must admit, I know Shroud's name. I've never watched his stream. I don't know a huge amount about what he's done in the past, but I feel this is taking a spot away from somebody that's been grinding in the professional leagues to try and take a spot on one of these teams.
Yeah, I mean, I think when we saw the announcement come out on Twitter, there was a lot of like positivity and negativity in the comments. I think it was quite polarizing because a lot of people are really excited to see Shroud back competing. It's been a while since he's been competing in any esports. But then there was also people saying, hey, how about the reserves on the roster? How about exactly what you're talking about? People that have been grinding exclusively at this game for a long time.
And that's not to say Shroud's not been grinding. Like, streamers grind, and I've got no doubt that he's got the skills, but I just, I would kind of like to see grassroots people succeed rather than paying a truckload of money to get a big name.
I hate to take it back to like pro wrestling, but it's like when The Rock comes back for WrestleMania. He's not going to be there the whole year, but they're giving him a spot on the biggest show just to generate tickets and income and interest for that big show rather than...
and they're not above doing that. Like, God, how many times have they brought back Ric Flair?
Yes.
Like, how has that guy not had a heart attack doing the shit that he does yet?
Yes.
God.
Look, I'm personally really excited to see Shroud back, and I think from what I've been able to tell, he's the kind of guy that supports the people around him. He's not going to go there and just take the limelight and not be generous to the teammates and the reserves and the people that he's working with. So I think he has a lot of capacity to bring value to the team, to the Sentinels, and to build up the players that are there. Like, there's a lot to be said for esports players being able to build their own personal profiles to advance their own careers, and that's something that he can do for the team members in this team. Like, he can make sure that they all have a really long and successful career even after they finish in competitive esports.
And I like that idea. And like I said, like it may be that he's got his mix of money, mix of millions. He may have invested it and gone, this is what I like. He might be Snoop Dogg doing the side quests after he's finished, the main story sort of thing.
Yeah,
It's with Snoop Dogg got signed to FaZe Clan, and he's not going to play a game. He's there to promote FaZe, and this while Shroud's going to play, he's got the skills. This could be that he's hoping to give back as well. So yeah, I don't mean to be overly negative. I must admit I do tend to see the negative aspects in these sorts of signings more. But like if he's there to help, I would really love to see him help.
I think from the outside, it's easy to feel like this is purely a profile-based decision rather than a merit-based decision. But I don't have that insight. And maybe Sentinels as a team have more things to worry about. Maybe they need to bring in more sponsors to keep their team viable. Having somebody like Shroud on board is going to bring that in. So
that's right. Cause I feel like we haven't done a lot of reporting on actual esports results just yet. We had a lot of news, but like it's been news in esports, not results in esports. But I'm very happy to say that there was the Apex Legends Global Series happened over the weekend, and Dark Zero, an Australian team, were the champions. It is amazing. I had to look at this a little bit, and I must admit, I just finished looking at some Valorant stuff, and my head was stuck in this progression makes no sense to me because of why are they doing? Why didn't they just say they won? And then it finally twigged to me that Apex Legends is a battle royale, and this is why they're doing it this way. So So basically, the way it worked is there was group stages. So they split. There was 40 teams, so they split them into 4 groups of 10. Then they did 3 rounds. So like, Group A would play Group B, then Group A would play Group C, and Group A would play Group D type thing. And looking at the results, Dark Zero in round 1 finished 5th. In round 2 they finished 6th, and round 3 they finished 8th, which gave them 13th overall. Which, look, if we're being honest, it's not amazing. Not amazing results. Then it went to a winner's bracket where they finished 6th and let them go through to the championship round. So the championship round works a little bit like TFT, where they'll play games and get awarded points for where they win. And when they get to 50 points, then they have to win after that to secure the title. And that's what they did. They got to 50 points and took out the win. So just let me actually check the results.
I was going to say, is it similar to TFT? Because I know with TFT you do have to get a first in one of your matches to be eligible to win.
I don't think so, because I don't think they got a first.
No, that it makes sense because there's more teams and just the way that this game works. I feel like that makes sense.
So I'm looking at the match point progression for Dark Zero. It looks like they didn't get any points in round 2, which is just incredible to me that they can come back and get them. But as of round 5, one of the teams, Furia, had enough points to win, but Dark Zero took it out in round 9. So like the round after they were eligible with points, they won.
Yeah, it looked like it was almost anybody's game there. They had 8 or something teams that were all in it to win it after that point. So that's cool. Congratulations to them.
Well done to Dark Zero. I love seeing Australian esports teams do well. Amazing. Love it. But there is more esports news going on at the moment as well, because the VCT Masters in Copenhagen is happening. So this is a Valorant tournament. It's still going on until the 24th of July, but it kicked off, and I just want, because this was an interesting stat, like our resident FPS player Reflex pointed us in this direction, and it in the first day it peaked at 443,637 concurrent viewers, and boasted almost 3 million watch hours in that first day.
Yeah, in 10 hours of gameplay, they
That's
have nearly 3 million hours of watch time. Like, that's nuts.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I think I was talking to you. We were talking about this last week. There's a lot of people that have not necessarily given Valorant its dues, and I don't think that after this week anybody can say that it's not a top tier esport, because with Shroud moving too, with how the viewership numbers have been with the Masters, it's there, no argument.
Yeah. Well, and it's still a new esport as well, because it came out in 2020, so it's still relatively new. But to be
the baby compared to some of the ancients of Dota and League of Legends.
But it's to be getting like almost 3 million hours watched just on day one. So this isn't even finals or anything. That's incredible.
Yeah, no, I love the growth of this sport. As a person who rarely plays first person shooters, this is one of the few I do play. Just because it's, you know, really dynamic with team roles and all that kind of stuff, so it makes it really interesting from a viewership perspective, and I think that's one of the advantages it has. Also, I mean, I don't know about you, I have enjoyed the more recent Overwatch / Valorant. Things can be colourful and it's okay.
Yeah. It's interesting, like, because I do like the cartoony sort of looks. Like, like, part of me thinks that's why Fortnite became a bigger game than PUBG, because PUBG seemed really serious and like had its more realistic looking stuff, and then Fortnite came along and go, hey, you can just be a unicorn running around in a field, and I think people appreciated that a little bit more and made it feel less stressful, I guess. But there is something to say for those colors. Like, just in gaming general, I always look at Borderlands as a series, because when Borderlands was first announced, all the screenshots were very like that realistic sort of thing. But then they went cell shaded and went cartoony, and everybody went, oh, this looks different and interesting now. And I kind of hope that it still would have succeeded with the humor and the stories that it tells, but I don't think it would have been as big as it is without that look. And like, not everything needs to be, you know, hyper realistic faces and stuff like that.
Yeah, no, there's something to be said for, like, you can get away with the extra excitement and the extra explosions and the cool super moves if it's in a bit less of a realistic setting. So, yeah, absolutely.
Good fun. Well, we're getting through them. Well, I was about to say we're getting through these pretty quick, but then I've just looked down and we're 25 minutes in. So yeah, we're doing some pretty good time. But two more things.
Lots of little news stories this week.
That's it. And we haven't even gotten to the big one that I want to talk about yet, so we'll see how long that takes us. But just quickly, their voting has opened for the Esports Awards. So if you go to esportsawards.com, you can put in a vote there. So there's stuff like Content Group of the Year or Esports Content Creator, Game of the Year, and there's a Game of the Year mobile, streamer, esports personality, all that sort of stuff. So, and that's just some of the categories that there are open. So you can go and have a look at those and have a vote for your good stuff.
There's not a lot to say. I mean, we were discussing it before. The event's not until December in Las Vegas, so I don't suspect the voting is closing anytime soon. And they've got a whole lot more categories coming as well, which, you know, anybody listening out there can still nominate for. If you've taken the best esports picture, you can nominate in that category, and there's dozens of other categories lined up. I'm always really excited about the one that has all the journalists in it that I can't remember the name of right now. I think if you scroll down, it's
hang on, Liz, because
I don't know,
because it's
anyway.
So,
it's always interesting to see who comes out the top of that list. I'm also really interested to see, because Shocks won last year for the host award, and she's been diversifying and working across multiple games now. So I'm wondering if she's still going to claim that crown again this year. So it will be interesting. I know we were kind of having a little discussion beforehand about how valid audience voted awards are versus industry voted awards. But
every time like something fan voted comes along, I always think of the Logies and the year that Tom Gleeson put in all that effort to win himself the gold Logie, and then basically got up on stage and badmouthed the whole thing.
Oh,
you remember? Like, well, not bad, like because his comedian shtick is like.
Yeah, he's grumpy.
He's grumpy, a little bit roasting type stuff. Yeah. So like he's done this whole thing and won the gold Logie, and then he's roasted the Logies when he's got on stage. Yeah. And really it's there's a bit of truth to that, because it just becomes a popularity contest, and it can be like, particularly when you're talking about things like esports content creators of the year. So people like that can mobilize their communities and just go like that. And I even think about stuff like the Triple J Hottest 100. Do you remember the year when BuzzFeed ran the campaign to get a Taylor Swift song into the Hottest 100?
Yes.
And if it, so like, it was going to place quite highly. I don't think it was going to get number one, but then Triple J pointed to a bit in the terms and conditions that said, you're not, like, no media, because Triple J is part of the ABC in Australia, which is our national broadcaster, which doesn't do ads and is fair, it's supposed to be fair and impartial and all that sort of stuff. But they pointed to a bit in the terms and conditions of the Triple J Hottest 100 voting that said media outlets are not allowed to campaign, pretty much. So it went, bad luck Taylor Swift, you're not getting in. So and
we love Taylor. Just that was
So don't mean anything.
It ruined the whole
that.
point of what it is.
That's it. It's supposed to be like ordinary people picking it, not like someone with a huge follower base getting behind it. It's. I must admit myself, I prefer industry awards. Like we were having a bit of a discussion before the show, like. And just things like peer voted awards, I feel are a better representation of where it's going. But then you also run into the issue where, because esports what's 10, 15 years old now, like the modern sort of term of esports, but it's still, to me, it's still in its infancy, I feel, and like they don't have a lot of the organizations behind the scenes. Like there'll be players associations and coaches associations in traditional sports, but the esports doesn't quite have that yet. And I think once they do get something like that, those voting awards through those organizations would be amazing to see.
Yeah, I think I agree a lot with what you're saying, which is why I tend to look forward to the categories that aren't, the best content creator of the year and those kinds of things, because people who know about the specific tighter categories will be voting for them, like, best journalist of the year, or like, what was this? There was something on here that was just like, I feel like only industry people are going to be voting for that. Compared to other sections of here.
Well, there's stuff like the on-air talent, and there's color caster, desk analyst, host, and play-by-play caster. So there's those sorts of categories as well as coach of the year, controller player of the year, controller rookie, mobile player, and org of the year. So there's bits like that as well that are a bit more general. But when you, and I know you like having more categories is good for sponsorships and stuff like that. But when you're voting for best esports apparel and cosplay and creative piece, Like, well, the creative piece has its place, I guess, because I'm thinking of like stories written about it. But yeah, it is.
I have a soft spot for the Best Esports cosplay. That
Oh,
I really like that.
Don't get me wrong. The cosplayers are amazing, and the work they put into doing their costumes are amazing. But to have like an official esports awards and have a category for that as well, I don't know.
No, it would be like the Oscars having a best cosplay of a character from a film.
Or no, it'd be like the Oscars giving out an award for who looked the best on the red carpet.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, it's there if you want. You can go vote, esportsawards.com. Go have a look at that and see what's on offer.
Yeah.
So we're half an hour in, and we're getting to what I would like to think is the meat of this.
Saving the best to last.
That's it. So.
Or maybe the worst.
Yeah, well, I'm hoping it's going to be the thing that generates a lot of discussion, not just with us, but with the Twitch chat and anybody listening to the podcast as well. So, sorry, excuse my burp there. I came across an article, and it's a very in-depth article on Dexerto. Dexerto. I always have trouble saying that, but Dexerto.com. And it's a story about a bug that was found in CSGO and the Esports Integrity Commission, or ESIC, getting involved and banning players, and the process that was. So I'll take you through some cliff notes, and this is just some highlights from that article, because a lot of it follows a coach called Tohio, Toh10. I'm going to call him Tohio. I have no idea if that's actually how you say it, but in September 2020, there was an announcement made and some coaches banned for a spectator bug which revealed the location of every player. This particular coach, Tohio, didn't think that he would be on there. He thought he was in the clear. He hadn't heard anything from ESIC, but the list came out. 37 coaches were banned for varying degrees of time, between 4 months and 3 years, for using this bug. And he found his name on the list. He was banned for 10 months. He was shocked because, this is where the first bit of this investigation done by ESIC kind of rings alarm bells for me, because they did not talk to him before announcing this list, but they spoke to some other players. And there was one in particular that, I'm going to say Nasher, PNSHR. He had been contacted. He was presented with the evidence. He pleaded he had an early guilty plea, got 25% off his sentence, and was banned for 3.75 months. So they've obviously spoken to him before this announcement was made, but not to Tohio. And that's kind of going, well, what if you're going to do that, you should at least notify the people first and not let them learn that they're being banned from the announcement. That's the first bit for me. The second bit was that Tohio applied to contest the ban. He submitted his appeal on the 30th of November. He didn't get a response until the 7th of May 2021. So that's 6 months from when he submitted it to when he got a hearing. Never mind the 2 months there. So that it's a total of 8 months of his 10-month ban before he's gotten heard on this, which is an incredibly long time. In the report, he got banned for 2 instances. One, he came across in 2017 that he didn't know what it was. And the second instance, he had video evidence of him standing behind his players and not actually at his computer spectating, so he couldn't see what was going on there. So he had to put together all this stuff. He spoke to this panel for 2 hours, and at the end the panel went, yep, cool, we got no questions. And just went, I think he did get his ban overturned in the end, but it was just, this whole process to me, I don't know why they've done it like this, especially when they've obviously contacted another coach, and let him plead guilty early and get a reduced charge. And another another high profile coach called IMBT. Not quite sure how to say that either, but the speculation that because he was a higher profile coach, he had his ban lifted within 3 weeks of the ban announcements. And that's, I don't know, like, it's
not even, regardless of how you feel about, people getting banned or whatever, or whether this whole thing is fair or not, it's not fair from person to person that's involved. Like, that's where I think the greatest injustice is about this whole thing. If they treated everybody the same, gave everybody the same notice, gave everybody the same sentences for the same crimes, or, they talk a little bit more about how if people abused it more, then they were given harder sentences, which is fine. Like, that's quantitative, right?
Yeah.
But the fact that one person wasn't told at all and he was given, X amount of months more and not given any rebuttal for 6 months, this is the problem.
Yeah. And because ethics in esports and traditional in sports, you need to have it. It's why players of any kind cannot bet on matches. Like, even if you bet that you're going to win, that's still a no-no. Because you just don't do it. It's you don't want to do it, and
that's when you get caught fiddling with your opponent's mouse and breaking it.
That's it. Just like a little snip in the cable or something, or just slightly unplug it so it looks like it's in, but it's not actually plugged in. I've never done that. I don't know what you're talking about. I definitely have never pulled a Nintendo 64 controller out when I got sick of losing to somebody. I've never done that. But anyway.
Jim.
But yeah, look.
They report you to ESIC.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, my mates as a kid, like, there was the slappers only GoldenEye, and I just got sick of being slapped around. So I go, no, it's my turn to win. But yeah, look, on the serious side of this, it's integrity commissions are very important, but they also have to be fair in what they do, and I believe that everybody should have the right of reply. And especially since this was a bug that had been around since 2017, at least since then. And they ban people 3 years later, but don't tell them. Like, I can only, like, looking through the article there were only 2 people that got their bans overturned. It was this Toyo and Imbit. But it's just crazy that they had to, like, because Imbit as well didn't have to go to a panel. It went to the commissioner of of ESIC, and he's just gone, yep, cool, no worries, your evidence is good, done. And I get that some of this needs to be automated because you're dealing with a lot of data, and there was a matrix that was developed to help do this. But when you finish doing that and you've identified that there's 37 coaches that you're going to ban because of this, you should be going to those coaches and saying, this is what we found, this is what we're going to do, what do you have to say to that? And if that had happened, Toyo could have just gone, here's my evidence, I didn't know any of this. He wouldn't have been banned in the first place, because just in the approvals process, he's done 75% of his ban. He's not been able to play, even though he's got the evidence and eventually been overturned. It's just, I don't, and I know this is a not-for-profit, and not-for-profits do their best with what they've got, but it's just, you need to have one process for everything.
Yeah. I think further down in that article you linked, there was a discussion about, the different rules for different people. One Brazilian coach that got caught, I think 22-day ban.
Yeah. Which is not,
and then
not
you're
much.
Comparing it to people doing 10 months.
Mm-hmm. And even like Imbit, he started talking about it. Mainly, he said the article says, I started speaking out about it because, he wasn't speaking out about it, because he wanted the process to be fair and impartial. But his homeland is Ukraine, and with everything that's going on there, he's gone, you know what, I don't care, there's bigger things going on, I want to talk about this. And even he's come out and said this is not really a fair process. That it should have been done better.
Yeah. 1,000%. And that seems to be the biggest frustration. Like, if you are somebody who's been caught, there's no due process, even if you are guilty, that has been standardized across everybody. And if you're innocent, there's been no standardized process. I think reading through that article as well, some of the coaches got, formal legal representation, and that didn't seem to help them at all dealing with ESIC. It was just all a bit of a mess on their end.
Yeah. And another thing for me as well is that this bug was known, and like they've been able to trace it back to 2017. But they didn't, it sounds like it didn't become a big talk in the CSGO community until August 2020. And then, a month and a half, 2 months later, it's sort of, the ban's come down. So 2 months to investigate this for something that goes back so far. That seems to me like a pretty short time span. You couldn't afford it another month to contact these players to talk to them. Like, it's, I don't know, especially when like back to Imbert as well. So he when this bug became known widely, he investigated himself and found instances of where he had it. And look, in the article from Dexito, it says he encountered this bug 5 years earlier. So 2015, actually, he's encountered this bug, but didn't know.
Wow.
Yeah. So that was the first time, and he had 3 other cases. So he's come across this 4 times and manages to get his ban overturned so much quicker than what Toyo did. It's...
Yeah. I think it's nuts as well, because last week we covered the Valorant bug that was causing a similar issue, where if you were in the coach or what's the word? Viewer mode.
Spectator.
Spectator mode. Thank you. The right word. There were times where you could have visibility of where the enemy team was as a spectator, and it still took them a little bit of time to fix it, but not 5 years.
Yeah. It's. I guess those are 2 separate issues though, because like the bug issue is the developer problem, and ESIC is separate to that. But it's still. And I don't know how to fix that. Like, I also don't know how ESIC gets its funding. Like, do esport groups pay the pay to be a member of ESIC? Or
yeah, so you can pay to be a member of ESIC. Their whole stance is intending to protect the stakeholders involved in esports and to maintain integrity in the sport. So a lot of people join up with ESIC in good faith. Also, I would imagine if you are in an environment where there is some bad behavior and that kind of stuff going on, if you join up, I assume you might get a little bit more of support and stuff from them. But after all this, you do wonder what their membership is like. And I don't even know if it's enforced, because I believe at some point basically you couldn't compete at certain events if you weren't a member with ESIC. And I'm not sure how that stands now, considering everything that's gone on, because it's a mess. Honestly, it's a mess.
Yeah, it really is. And look, and the only thing you can sort of say about it is that you hope that ESIC steps back, looks at this, maybe even reads this article and finds the pressure they put these players under. Like, because this is their livelihoods. Like, I don't know, like, if you cop a ban, are you able to keep working and just not attend events? I don't. Yeah, it's some. Hopefully, they will improve their processes out of all this, and the next time that something like this happens, that And it will, because bugs happen in games. There's nothing you can do about that. There's unintended consequences all the time. But just hopefully the next time it happens that it's a smoother process for those involved.
I mean, I don't think that anybody involved in the CSGO community now is thinking about doing anything out of line at all, because of, you know, how messy this has, you know, been handled. You know, if it was, you know, a quick slap on the wrist for a lot of these guys, maybe they would have been tempted to.
But the problem is that it wasn't people that did the wrong thing that got hurt the most by this. It's the people that didn't realize what they were doing and got caught up in it. It pains me to see, like, and this is getting a little bit philosophical, but most of our legal system is built on innocent until proven guilty, and a lot of this time, and it happens, like Streamaholics, one of our other shows here on GameOnOz.com, talks about Twitch bans and how they handle those, and how there's basically no recourse because these are private companies. These are not governments where that principle maintains, and you've got no right of reply. You were just banned because this is a private platform and they can do whatever the hell they like with it.
Yeah,
it's a little bit different. Sorry, go on.
No, I agree with what you were like leading into there. Like, ESIC is a body that is reportable to the sports and the players. It's meant to be there to protect the players and the teams and the coaches. And I don't feel like they've done that at all. I was just looking through the ESIC website because I'm like, oh, let's, you know, find out about what more they're meant to do. Clear, consistent, tried and tested regulations. It's not the first thing as a benefit of being with ESIC. Like,
really? No. We shouldn't. A
lot of the goals and what they drive to do sounds really fantastic. You know, like supporting players if there's any suspicious betting in games that you're involved in, they'll let you know, so you're aware of it, because a lot of these crimes, obviously, you might not be aware as a player, so they bring your attention to it. Then you can be like, oh, that's actually my girlfriend that's placing those bets. I didn't know that. Oh, okay. You know, player education, help and advice, you know, all this stuff is really, really good. They've even got an arm for betting providers. So if you want to, if you're like, you know, sports bet or something like that, you can join up, and then they will give you education and support around esports betting and how to make sure it remains corruption free.
That's really good. Those are good things to be doing. And that's why you need integrity bodies in everything, really, not just esports or sports. Everything that you do should be framed from an ethical point of view.
Oh yeah, for sure. I think that this boils down to a discussion around why are people cheating in the first place. Is there not enough money to be supporting these people, so they are feeling like they need to make money by behaving unethically? You know, that brings about other discussions around the sports landscape, because, you know, nobody thinks they're the bad guy. You know, if people are doing this because they can't afford rent, maybe we need to make sure they can afford rent.
Yeah, that's it. You don't, like, just a ban is treating the symptom, not the cause. So it's like, you do need to do that extra little bit of looking and make sure that everything is going well with your player base and with your coaches. Make sure that they're feeling good, because at the end of the day, we're all here. We all want to enjoy ourselves as well. Well, yeah, I think that's about it. We've been talking for 50 minutes now, Natty. This is good. This is one of the biggest shows, and that's before
my goodness.
That's before we take into account Rusty's interview, which was another.
Oh my
20 minutes.
goodness!
So it's going to be a big show.
Yay! Sorry, everybody who's been listening and is like, this is normally finishing 20 minutes ago. I have to say I'm not enjoying it, but
that's it. Well, we thank everybody for tuning in, whether it's live on twitch.tv /Game on Oz, or catching the podcast on YouTube, or whatever your favorite podcast platform of choice is. We thank you very much. And yeah, I think that's about it. Thanks, Natty.
Everything.
Thanks, everybody. And we'll see everybody next week.
Thanks, Trey. Bye.
Bye. Thank you so much for stopping by to watch this video. If you like what you've seen, why not check out this video here? Or if you really like us, drop us a subscribe. And don't forget to like and comment as well. Thanks, and we'll see you next time.